Hey guys, welcome. Today we're going to have a marathon of a whole bunch of questions that ex-Jehovah's Witnesses are usually asking. And if you are a PIMO, I'm pretty sure you're asking, if not all of them, at least majority of them. And if you're not asking them, sooner or later you will. So I just compiled a whole bunch of questions that were in my mind when I was leaving, as well as a whole bunch of questions that other witnesses who are leaving or left asked me, and I was wondering if you guys will find the answers compelling. Now, if you want to join me, of course, I would love to see anybody join me. So I'm going to post in the comments a link that will allow you to join my podcast today. If you want to call me using WhatsApp, you can use this number. I got no problem you calling me into the show. In the meantime, I just hope that if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat and I'll be happy to answer. All right, let's begin. All right, so the first question is how to overcome guilt. If you know anything about guilt as a Jehovah's Witness, you know there is a lot of guilt put onto the members, especially when they're leaving. They are really afraid of making the decision of stepping outside of the congregation because they will feel like they are at fault of destroying the family. They know the consequences if you leave, if you write the letter, I no longer want to be a witness, chances are all your friends and family will disown you. They will not want to have anything to do with you. They will not talk to you, and they will cut you off pretty much from one day to the next. Now, not only that, they're going to make you the one who made this decision, and you are the one guilty. Now, for a person who doesn't know how to deal with this, very often they feel like, oh yeah, if I remain as a witness, this would have never happened. But because I chose to leave, this is why my whole family and my whole life went into pieces, and they really struggle with this. So I tell you, I showed this example how this gaslighting is really strong among Jehovah's Witnesses and how you can overcome this. Imagine you're in a room and a whole bunch of not in the room, you're in a bank. You're in a bank and there's a whole bunch of people there. All of a sudden, the terrorist walks in, shoots the gun somewhere in the sky, and says, "Everybody down the corner, and I want money." Now, police surrounds the place, and you're basically a hostage. Now, the guy says this: if anybody tries to leave, if anybody tries to escape, I'm going to kill another innocent person inside. Now, maybe you don't believe that you will make it alive. Maybe you believe that everybody will be killed because you guys already saw the guy's face. I don't know where it is, but you see a window, you jump out of the window and you're running. And all of a sudden, you hear bang. Somebody shot an innocent person inside, and they're yelling through the window saying, because you made the decision to leave this bank, to run away, I shot the other person. Blood on your hands. It's because of you that person died. That's called gaslighting, where you basically trying to put that blame onto somebody else. You didn't kill anybody. You did not commit a crime. You're not the bad person here. You're here to try to save yourself by leaving this environment. Somebody else set up the rules that are completely unfair, and he's the one doing the killing. But inside, you feel like, oh man, I should have stayed. If I stayed, maybe the other person would be still alive today. And you start feeling guilty. That's what Jehovah's Witnesses do. They say, you go preaching door to door, and if you don't, blood on your hands. These people will die because Jesus will come here with his army and 144,000, and they will do the killing. They're planning to do the killing. It's in their doctrine. They believe that they will come here and do the killing unless we try to warn people. about them coming. It's kind of weird, but anyways, when you go through this, you realize, hey, you know what? It's not me. It's not my rules. I didn't set up those rules. Those rules are unfair. It is up to them. It is their decision. It's their rules. And if they don't want to follow them, it also their choice. There's plenty of Jehovah's Witnesses who have ignored those rules. They said, okay, governing body says one thing, I'm going to do another thing. I have my own brain. I'm going to make my own decisions. They can say, I have to disown my child. I will never disown my child. And they keep contact with people who are outside of the congregation against the recommendations of the governing body. So it's not just them, it's their decisions, it's their structure and their policies, not yours. And this is how you can forget about that guilt, because truthfully, if it wasn't for that religion, no separation would exist. So when you're thinking, oh, I caused this, you didn't cause this. It's the religion and the structure in the religion causes this. Because if you and your family and your friends didn't have this religion, then this separation would never happen. Next one, how to overcome fear. For example, about Armageddon. There's a lot of fear in Jehovah's Witnesses, fear of the apostates, fear of the outside world, fear of the Satan, fear of Armageddon and dying at Armageddon. There's a lot of fears in those people installed to the point where even if one of Jehovah's Witnesses is starting to question anything, it's starting to say certain things that are, I'm not sure if that's materialistic. I'm not sure if that's not self-centered. I'm not sure if that's not putting too much attention on yourself instead of Jehovah. Anything is fearful. It's like, oh, that's temptation. This is Satan. This is Satan attacking me. There's just fear all around them, and they're really afraid. If you don't get rid of this fear, if you don't go through actual studying of where those doctrines came from and why they're implemented and how manipulation is done, what is the bite method that's Stephen Hassan, if you ever read his book, please read it. It is really valuable to find out what are the characteristics of cults and how brainwashing and how manipulation works, because once you understand this, then and only then you'll be like, oh wow, I was duped. Studying other religions, studying other cults will really help you to see, oh, you know what, these people fell for all those doctrines, even though I never did. And I'm glad I never feared hell. But there are tons of people who, even when they left their religion, decades later, still fear hell. As Jehovah's Witnesses, we never did because it was not part of the doctrine. But we did fear Armageddon. So find out what other religions are fearful of and find out why, find out where the roots are from, where all these ideas came from, and you will cure yourself from the fear of Armageddon. It is so important because many people who left Jehovah's Witnesses many years, very often left because they were mistreated in the congregation, not because they didn't like the doctrine. And then years later, they hear, oh, war broke out, a pandemic broke out, an earthquake happened, and they're like, oh, Armageddon coming. Now I know that's a sign, because they never got rid of all the indoctrination that was still in their head. Next one, how to make decisions. How to make decisions. You might find it odd if you've never been a Jehovah's Witness, but yes, Jehovah's Witnesses have been told everything, what to decide, what is good, what is bad, how to make decisions, what's moral, immoral, what to do, what to dress, who to marry, what school to go to. Everything is basically spelled out to them. Even if you might think, oh, it's up to them to decide, but truthfully, there is such a strong pressure to make choices that will never conflict anything that is related to the religion. So the decisions that you have to make right now, when you leave this culture and you're like, well, before I knew exactly what to do and what not to do and how to react to certain things and what decisions to make, how do I make decisions now? Well, truthfully, the very basic of your decisions right now is, am I doing harm? Not what's sinful, not sinful, and what the congregation will say, and whether this brings glory to Jehovah, or what people will say is somebody's going to be stumbled. None of those things matter no more. What matters is, are you causing harm? Are you causing harm to another human being? If the answer is no, this is not harmful, then everything else is simply a preference. Everything else is a preference. If you're wearing this type of shirt and somebody else is using a shirt that you cannot look at, well, fine, don't look at that shirt. But that is something that he wants to wear. If somebody builds a different house or whatever, unless they're harming you somehow, leave it alone. Let it be, regardless of their skin color, beliefs, sexual orientation, size, whatever. You don't criticize, you don't judge others unless they're harming you or they're harming somebody else. Then and only then you can step in and say, no, this is not acceptable. But that's how you make decisions in your life. You look at your life and then you try to figure it out. If this does not harm me or anybody else, then you look into the second step is, does this improve the quality of life? Will this decision make my life or somebody else's life better? And if the answer is yes, chances are it's a good decision. To be honest, most of the decisions are made out of two things: fear and love. Fear and love. And if you choose fear, chances are it's a bad decision. If you're doing things out of fear, majority of them, not always, obviously, because sometimes it's a good, healthy fear that keeps you alive. But majority of the things that we're afraid of because of somebody else's opinion, and we're not going to do something because we're afraid of what people will say or afraid of people's reactions, usually those decisions are not very good. But if the decision is made out of love, when you inside know that what you're doing is right, regardless of what people think, chances are it's a good decision. Next one, how to overcome ostracism. Well, as you know, if you leave Jehovah's Witnesses, you are going to be cut off. And to be honest, for most PMOs, physically and mentally out people, it is a really challenge. They don't believe in the doctrines, but they're afraid of leaving because the moment they leave, they don't know the losses. They don't know who's going to cut them off, if everybody that they know as a witness will cut them off, or some people, what's going to happen, especially if they're married to a JW and they have kids. Now, that is a really tough decision. It's a decision that I had to make myself, and it was extremely difficult because my wife said, no, I'm not leaving this religion. And to actually say, you know what, you can stay if you want to, but don't ask me to go to the Kingdom Hall was extremely difficult. So I know it's really tough, but to be honest, the only moment when I started healing is the moment I accepted the losses. I just went through everybody that I know as a witness in my head, including all my family. And when I accepted the fact that they might all, without exception, cut me off, I said, you know what? I'll survive this. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be extremely difficult. It's going to be painful because I love and care about these people. And I know they care about me too. It's not one way. It's the indoctrination that's causing this problem. But when I accepted the loss, it's the moment I started healing. It's the moment I started breathing. It's the moment my anxiety started melting down, because I was no longer afraid of those losses because I already accepted them. And when you decide who wants to be your friend, not somebody else, because right now, if you're a witness, somebody else decides who is your friend and who is not. They say, okay, these are the people in your congregation. These are the people you're going to spend time with. These are going to be your friends. They decide who is your friend. Now you get to decide who is your friend. Before you had a spiritual family, now you're going to have a chosen family. You're going to make the decision who is in your life and who is not. And it doesn't mean that they have to be in your life for the whole duration of your life. It can be somebody for 1 year or 5 or 10. You get to choose. And you get to choose based on people's behavior, how they treat you, who they are as a person. Their values, their beliefs will matter to you, not their religious status. And when you get that kind of a feeling of somebody like, oh, you know what, I can open up and we have something in common. And it's not based on, oh, this person told me that you belong to this congregation now and you have the same beliefs like me, then we have to be friends. And somebody will say, oh, now you go into this carb group and you do this territory. And now you kind of forced to work with them, even though inside you might not want to. No, none of that anymore. You have the ability to choose who will be your friend, who you spend time with. And ostracism is very difficult, but when you accept it, when you actually accept, okay, this is what's going to happen, I know it's going to happen, I'm okay with it. I don't like it, but I know I'm going to make it. I know it's going to be hard, but I know nobody will throw me in jail. I know I'm not gonna die. I know nobody's gonna cut off my head. I'm not gonna get a disease. I'll live through this. And once you accept those losses, then you start healing. Oh, sorry. I click on this already. And now what's next? Next question is, should I inform JWs about the dangers in their faith? It's basically how to wake up JW. The moment you start telling them about certain things that are not correct in the religion, a lot of people start waking up. The question is tough because you love and care about these people and you feel like you should tell them. It's like when you were a Jehovah's Witness, you felt like you have to go and tell the whole world that the Armageddon is coming and you have to all save them and pull them out of this world into the safety because, doomsday is coming. Well, it could stay with you for a while when you feel like, oh, now I got to wake up all the Jehovah's Witnesses and tell them what is wrong with this religion and how they're wasting their life trying to, do things that are completely useless. Majority of people do not succeed. Majority of people, as you know, when they try to tell their friends and family about what's wrong, they're being shunned pretty much right away. So what I would suggest is put your best effort to warn people, not try to wake them up, but to warn people about the dangers in Jehovah's Witness religion, things like blood issues or ostracism or pedophile cases, all those things, you can definitely warn them and try to put your best effort to inform your family members in your household, which basically means your children are your responsibility and you're supposed to inform them. Even if your spouse says, don't tell them, those are your children. It's your responsibility to warn them about any dangers, including the ones from Jehovah's Witnesses. And I believe you should try to at least inform your spouse in the best way possible. Not because you want to change them or break their faith. You should just inform them. What they do with it, it's up to them. The moment you start putting pressure on them, chances are they're going to create the backfire effect and they're going to oppose you with all their might. So what you do is you try to inform them. What they do with it, it's up to them. You might think, I can't talk to them. Well, here's one conversation that you could have, okay? And you let them decide if they want to know or not. The way I approach this is like this. You ask your best friend or your spouse or whoever. You say, do you know, let's say, okay, let's create this example. Let's say you're talking to your wife and your wife has a best friend. Her friend, let's say, is Mary. And you say, Mary, your best friend? It's like, yeah. What if you found out that Mary is in a relationship with, let's say, Stephen, and you know that Stephen is cheating on her? Would you tell her? Like, oh, is he? No. I'm just running what if scenario. If you knew that Stephen is cheating on your best friend Mary, would you tell her this? And I'm like, wow. Majority of people would say yes. I say, would you tell her this even though the consequences of that information could be absolutely devastating in her life? Her husband is a provider. She doesn't have another husband to go to. Chances are maybe she will never marry again. They have kids. He's a breadwinner. The consequences of that knowledge would be devastating to her and her family. Would you tell her? And see, majority of people would say yes. And the reason why is because at that point, if the person knows, they can make a decision. They can make a decision, do I want to stay or do I want to leave? But without that knowledge, they're being lied to and cheated on, and they don't even know about it. So if we care enough about somebody else, we will let them know, even though the consequences of that might be quite devastating, but it's up to them. So if they say yes, I would tell them. Then you can say, you know what? This is how I feel about your relationship with the organization. There are certain things I know that are harmful to you that I am aware that you don't know about them. You don't know about them. You're blind to them. and they constantly tell you, don't look, don't look, don't listen, don't look. If you don't want to know, that's fine. But if you want to know, I'm here to tell you. I'll be happy to share it with you. What you do with that knowledge is up to you. I'm not here to destroy your faith, not here to undermine what you believe in. That is all up to you. I'm just letting you know there's some certain things that I believe you should know because they could be harmful to you. And I'm doing this out of my care for you. See, when the moment they feel that you're doing this, not because you want to be smart and prove them wrong, but because you care that they could be hurt, then it's a totally different feeling. They're not going to feel like, oh, this is Satan attacking me. This is my friend or my husband sees the danger and he cares about me. That is a totally different approach. And I think from that perspective, you have a small chance. Next question. Can I still be friends with JWs? Ooh, that is a tough question. Can I still be friends with JWs? I tell you what, it's very difficult. It's not impossible, but it's very difficult. The only people that could potentially be friends with you if you were not disfellowshipped and left peacefully, quietly, and kind of faded are people whose religion is a part of their life. It's not the whole life. It's usually not those who are super fanatical and they pioneer and they just all talk about the end of the world and GWs and conventions. They have a much larger life, and the faith is just a small portion of their life. It's usually people who join that religion who actually had friends and family who are not part of that organization, and they join later in their life, and their mind is usually a lot more open to the fact that, oh, somebody have different beliefs than me and I'm still friends with them, because chances are they already have those friends or had those friends outside and they're totally fine. So it's not impossible, but I think you should expect that friendship to end at any moment, because the moment they see that, oh, you know what, you're celebrating Christmas, you're celebrating birthdays and whatever, they might tolerate this to a certain extent, but one day something might snap and they say, you know what, I can't do this anymore. So it is possible. It's extremely difficult, but if you manage to do it, just remember you might end at any day. Next question. What if JWs are right? Ooh, what if they're right? Well, to be honest, it's very important to take the time to go through all the major doctrines. Because if you have inside your head those doubts that, oh, maybe they're right, maybe the end of the world will come, maybe they're correct on some things, it might cause you to make certain decisions in your life that could be extremely harmful. I know myself. I know one person myself who left JWs for very long, and he was cursing that organization, said really bad things about it. But at the very end, he got sick. He needed blood transfusion, and he said no, and he passed away. I'm not saying he passed away because of the refusal of blood transfusion. He would have died no matter what. But that just showed me that indoctrination was still there, even though he left a long time ago, many years. So it is very important to go through all those major doctrines that Jehovah's Witnesses are teaching and find out for yourself why they are false, why they're not real, who made it up, why, when, where did it come from, what are the roots of it. And then and only then you'll be like, okay, that's crazy, right? A really good book, obviously, Crisis of Conscience by Raymond Franz, but read the second book, In Search of Christian Freedom. He goes through major doctrines in Jehovah's Witness religion, and he brilliantly describes where they come from, who implemented them, why the changes were made, who voted for them, who against them. Really, really well written book. I strongly recommend it. I find it actually more interesting than the first one. So I very strongly recommend to find out for yourself what is right, what is wrong. Next one. How should I view the Bible? Now, that is obviously a next step. If you start questioning the religion, sooner or later, you're going to start questioning the Bible. You're going to start maybe questioning existence of God. You're going to start questioning everything you've previously believed. Why? Because you were duped, because you felt like, you know what, I believed it so strongly that I was maybe even willing to die for it. And then I later on realized that the whole thing was just made up. What about the Bible? Well, dig in and find out who wrote the Bible, when, who put it together, how many books were there, and you're going to find out some stuff that's going to blow your mind. As a JW, I always believe that the story of Jesus was written by Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Nothing's further from the truth. They were not the writers. There were like 30 different gospels and only 4 were chosen. And even those 4 contradict each other in many, many places. And we don't even know who wrote it. We don't know in what language and when. Find out all the details about the Bible. You realize there is tons of mythology in it, tons of it. A lot of copies from other books, and just changed from this, from that, and from here and from that. Lots of legends. And then yet put in the Bible, and people believe that those events really took place. Once you find out where those things are from, things are going to start opening up. And to be honest, I read the Bible more than once, and only when I took everything from my brain and I threw it out the window and I said, I'm going to throw all my biases out. I'm going to read this book for what it really is, not for what I want to be, not for what people told me it is. I'm just going to read it for what it is, like a book that I never had in my hand, and I'm going to read it and I'm going to come to my conclusions. And believe me, I read it like it was a book I never had in my hands. It's unbelievable. You read it and you're like, oh my gosh, why did I used to believe this? Some passages are shocking, even though we knew about them as witnesses. But when you're looking at those things objectively, you realize, wow, I mean, I would never behave like this today. I would never expect anybody to behave like this, but yet it was totally fine because it was in the Bible. And I think we justified a lot of evil and cruelty simply because we said, oh, that was God's chosen nation. God told them to do it, or they did it because, other nation was on their way to the promised land, so it's okay to slaughter them. I mean, we justify a lot of cruelty, and I don't really know how else to describe it, but people justify almost anything as long as they believe it was from a higher source, in any religion. And we look at other religions who would use exactly the same excuse. We say, okay, we go and slaughter this nation because our God tells us it's okay. And if it's other nation doing this, we would say they're evil. But if it's the God that we believe in, then we justify it. And yet these people on the other side justified exactly the same way. So find out who wrote the Bible, when, who put it together, why was it, written in certain languages, why was it prohibited from people to read it, why there are so many books that were not allowed to be in that book, why some Bibles have more books, Catholics have more books than 66, why some people have less. Find out those things for yourself, because once you find out, then the whole thing starts falling apart. You realize, oh, that book was mainly used to control others. Mainly used for the stories were used to implement certain laws and create fear in order for people to know, oh, you know what? Yeah, there is a government, and government's telling us what right is, what is right, what is wrong. But if the government is not looking at us, then we can do whatever we want. Well, the whole idea of religion is you're not going to get away with it. There is somebody invisible watching you all the time, and if you misbehave, you're going to be punished. If not in this life, then in the next. And it worked very well, and still works. That ideology still works till today. Next, if JWs don't have the truth, who has it? Well, find out what the word truth is, because they use that word way too much. They say, well, we have the truth, we're in the truth, we left the truth. People who left Jehovah's Witnesses very often say, I left the truth. Oh, my cousin is still in the truth. No. Stop using that word towards Jehovah's Witnesses. They are not in the truth. They don't have the truth. If anything, they have a whole bunch of myths. Yes, what is the biggest enemy of truth is a myth, not a lie. And those myths, those misconceptions and misunderstandings and different interpretations, they cause people to fall into a huge delusion when they believe in their own doctrines so strongly that even if you show them black and white evidence that are contradicting their beliefs, they will not be able to see it. So um, when it comes to the religions, you got to realize that there is no place where you're going to find that you're going to agree with everything. There is no place like that. Our mind is not capable of finding out what is the truth 100%. We can only increase or decrease our chances of finding out what is the truth. And we have to now figure it out what framework we're going to have in our head to determine what is true and what is not. Because previously, we just believed whatever is the governing body told us to. Then they created the system that, as they call, channel of communication with God. And whatever they said, we believed, and we said that is the truth. And if something agrees with it, and obviously is true. If anything disagrees with it, obviously is wrong. That is a really bad frame of reference. The best frame of reference, in my opinion, right now, is to realize that there are three truths. One is what I call objective truth. Objective truth is outside of our brain. It's whether we believe it or not, whether we know of it or not, it's there and it exists. Math is a perfect example of objective truth. 2 + 2 is 4, and no matter what religion you're in and where you are in this planet, and with 1,000 years ago, 1,000 years from now, that will be a true statement. If you make any changes to it, it will be a different formula, or it will not be accurate. We can teach our calculators to determine whether that statement is true or false. That's what we called objective truth. It's outside of our mind, but inside of our mind, we have something that we call the truth because of our personal experience. We experience something personally, and therefore we accept it as true. And there is another one, what we call authority. Authoritative truth is when somebody who we view as an authority in our head tells us something and we accepted it as truth because they know better than us. And this is where religions fall into a big problem, where people basically rely on so-called experts in faith, and they say, this guy knows better than me, he knows the Bible better than me, he knows the prophecies, he studied ancient languages and blah 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 blah, and he is an expert in this field, therefore he knows better than me, therefore I will accept what he says as true. Do your own research as much as you possibly can, but what I started doing is finding out what is my category when it comes to accepting something as true. And for me, right now, the scientific formula is the best path to truth. It's not faith, it's not hope, but scientific evidence and knowing how to evaluate evidence is not guaranteed, but it's the best way that we can increase our chances of finding out what is true and what it's not. Where can I find psychological help? Well, there is many support groups. There's many groups that will help you as for ex-Jehovah's Witnesses. But please, please, please go to therapy. If you can afford it, go to therapy. I was afraid of going to therapy, and that really prolonged my recovery. I regret not going because my mind was really bad for a long time. But when I started talking to therapists and I started talking to coaches and I started talking to specialists in that field, I realized, oh my gosh, I would have healed so much quicker if I had the information and tools that they had before. I started asking coaches for help, and I'm like, wow, they helped me to realize things that previously would take a really long time, and they helped me to shorten that time of recovery. So please, there is tons of help out there. There's tons of books. There's tons of support. There's tons of Jehovah's Witnesses groups and support groups that can really help you. So don't be afraid to ask for help. You will recover 100 times faster simply by asking, what can I do to recover, from people who already did. If you try to reinvent the wheel and try to go this way and this way and this way and this way, you're just going to waste a lot of time, energy, and emotions. You ask people who already walked that path, and they will be able to help you. And if you ask, especially if you ask professionals, your recovery will be much, much quicker. If you don't find, there are therapists who are ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, which I strongly recommend that route, simply because they will understand you. They will understand the pain and the psychological damage that was made. If you go to somebody who has never had any experience with Jehovah's Witnesses, you will waste a lot of time simply explaining what took place, and they might never get it. How to build self-esteem. Self-esteem basically comes from two things. One is how you communicate with yourself, and second, from actually overcoming challenges. So let's talk about those two things. Self-esteem, when it comes to communicating to yourself, is the problem with Jehovah's Witnesses is the fact that you were never able to take credit for any of your work, no matter what you accomplished, even if you accomplished things inside the organization. Because of course, if you accomplish things outside of the organization, most people downplayed it. Most people were not telling others because that would be not humble. That would be a person who was proud and maybe too materialistic and maybe putting focus not on spiritual things. So most people, no matter what success they had outside of the organization, they would not share it inside. But if they did have any success in the congregation and they brought people into the organization, they would also not take credit because all the credit goes to Jehovah. That created a lot of people who are sheep-like, who don't feel any sense of self-esteem because they don't feel like they are worthy of any attention. Anybody looking at them saying, oh, you know what, you guys, you did something amazing. I really, you could be my mentor. And they're like, no, not me. No. They always downplay it. They will never want to take any glory. They even have a hard time taking a compliment and saying thank you for a compliment. They would always say, oh, no, it's not not me. Because for them, actually being meek and humble is something to feel special about. That's how they feel. So to build self-esteem right now after you leave, is the first thing you have to do is communicate with yourself differently, because you are worthy of praise if the praise is earned. You definitely can achieve something. If you didn't achieve it by hurting other people, but by simply building something, then you definitely need to feel good and proud about your achievements. But the problem is we never celebrated birthdays, never celebrated any of our achievements or our achievement of our goals or anything in our life. So it's difficult to feel good about ourselves. And especially with all that indoctrination of if you bring any attention to yourself, that's evil, selfish, and so on. No. You bring self-esteem by communicating with yourself that, yes, you are worthy of praise. You are worthy of receiving credit when the credit is due. And at the same time, you got to overcome challenges. You can't just bring self-esteem for the things that you have not done. That's ego. Your ego is going to explode. It's like, oh, yeah, I'm the smartest person on the planet. No, you're not. No, you're not. But if you overcome challenges and you look back and you're like, crap, I was this weak person and I had a gigantic problem and I went through this. Good. Excellent. Feel good. Feel proud that you made this happen. And to be honest, every single ex-JW who left the organization has reasons to be proud, has reasons to say, you know what? It was tough. It was the toughest thing that I have ever done. It took enormous amount of courage, and I deserve praise for it. I should feel proud of myself because there's tons of people still in it. They are afraid. They didn't have the same amount of courage like me. They're still there, even though they know it's wrong, but they're still there because they don't have the strength to leave. And I get it. Believe me, I stayed in it for many years as a PMO because I was too afraid of leaving until one day I'm like, you know what? I got to be courageous and I have to break through this fear and stop this, generation after generation. Because if I pass this on to my kids, and the kids will pass on to the next kids, and so on, how many more people will be affected? I'll take the hit, and then this will stop. And I'm proud of it. It was one of the most difficult decisions I have ever made in my life. It was painful. It almost cost me my marriage. It cost me relationship with my sisters and with a whole bunch of friends. But it was worth every single sacrifice I've made, by far. Because I live authentically today. A life on your terms is by far the best life that you can have. But you got to overcome challenges and praise yourself accordingly. Don't bullshit yourself, because then your ego is gonna explode, and people feel the difference between self-esteem and ego pretty much instantly. How to celebrate holidays? That question is very interesting, because I know many people leave and they're wondering, well, you know what? I wanted to celebrate birthday, but I'm shaking inside. I was too. Yeah. First time I threw a birthday party for my daughter, I was shaking inside. She was super excited. She was so happy. Like, finally, we can celebrate. She was super happy, but I felt, because of all the indoctrination, my brain was like, what are you doing? This is evil. This is satanic, demonic, and blah, 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 all the crap. But you know what? It goes away. Goes away very quickly. You do it once, twice, 3 times, and you're fine. At the same time, you don't have to celebrate anything you don't want. You do what you want. You can pick and choose which celebration you're gonna do. You can be an atheist and celebrate Christmas. Why not? If that's what you want to do, that's what freedom is all about. You can have a Christmas tree, or you can say, I'm not gonna have a Christmas tree. I'm just gonna give gifts. Or maybe you don't want to give gifts. It is up to you, and you choose which ones you want to celebrate, for how much, what do you want to do. Nobody can force you. Nobody can tell you you have to do this or you cannot do this. You basically choose. That is the best part of freedom. Where can I find friends? You know what? It's good to at the beginning to talk to ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, because they already know the path. But there is a moment of saturation. There's a moment when you feel like, you know what? I got to move on. Choose something that you're passionate about. I don't care what it is. You like painting, you like bicycle, you like adventure, you like kayaking. I don't care where it is. There's a group in your neighborhood that does whatever it is that you want to do, especially if you live in the big city. Find people who are not witnesses. They know nothing about witnesses, and spend time with them. Are you going to feel that close that quickly like with JWs? No. It's going to take a lot longer to get through these people, because you don't have as many things in common as you had with JWs. Because with JWs, we're a mirror of them. 80% of their life you already knew. While with new person, you don't know that much. You know very little. So it's going to take much longer to get to know them. But you know what? These people are a lot more authentic, because when they're with you, they act the way they want to act. They're not going to act the way organization tells them to act. Because when you're getting to know a JW, very often that person wears a mask, because that's how they're supposed to behave. And when you got to know them a little bit closer, you're like, ooh, wow, I have no idea. But with people in the world, there it's much quicker, because you will get to know their authentic self much quicker. If they want to smoke, they'll smoke. If they want to swear, they're gonna swear. If they want to tell you to F off, they'll tell you. Why? Because they're not worried about the congregation telling them what is upbuilding and what is, I don't know, sinful. They're not worried about that. So they're a lot more authentic. So you'll get to know them quicker, and these friendships will be a lot more real. You will be a lot more real, and they will be a lot more real. There are certain things you're not going to like, and there are some things you're going to love. I tell you what, commonality brings people together. The friendship gets close. But when you have differences, when you say one thing and the other one says, no, I don't agree with that, but it's okay, you're still my friend. That's when the true relationships are formed. When that's like intimacy is built on that. Why? Because when you are a JW, you have to agree on everything. At least when it comes to religion, you have to agree on 100%. You cannot agree on 99. You cannot say, I'm going to agree on everything except birthdays. I'm going to celebrate birthdays, but everything else I agree upon. You can't. It's 100% or nothing. But in the normal world, you're not going to agree on 100% on everything. There's no way. But there will be things that you disagree with. And among Jehovah's Witnesses, if you say, I disagree with this, you know the consequences. It's severe consequences for saying, I disagree with this. But in the real world, you could say that. You can say, you know what? I have a different opinion on that. I see things a little bit different. I'm going to make my own choice on this. And when you see that people love you no matter what, people love you even though they have a different opinion, even though you have a different viewpoint and you do things differently, and you can be yourself and not worry that you're going to be rejected and cut off from them because you said, I disagree. Boy, are the friendship better. Uncomparably. Is the love better? You can't even compare. Much, much better. Huge upgrade. But you're not going to have automatically 100 people that are so close to you. Just like if you're a JW, you move from one city to another, you go to a congregation and voila, you have 100 friends already. Not going to happen. It's going to take a lot more effort to build that friendship. And chances are you're only going to have a handful. So instead of having a congregation of 100 people, you're going to have now a small group of 3 to 5 closest friends. And be careful who you put in that circle because they will influence you the most. And then you're going to have a bigger circle of your neighbors, your coworkers, some friends, some people that you knew from the past that's much broader. But truthfully, you don't need 100 people or 8 million, as they said. You just need a small group of people that you can trust. And if out of that small group you find, oh, I don't trust this person, guess what? You're not obligated to spend the rest of your life with them as your friend. You get to choose who is in your circle of friends. And at any moment you can say, sorry, this friendship is over. How can I educate myself? A lot of people feel like, you know what, I don't know where to start because I left this religion and I'm so behind. I didn't go to college. I didn't go to university. I've been just washing windows or working in landscaping or working on construction. Can I educate myself? I've seen people in their 50s and 60s, even 70s. Yes, there was a guy in my class. I was studying to be a pilot, and there was a guy in my class, 73. He's like, I love it. I didn't have time and money to do it before. I want to do it now. And he's studying to be a pilot at the age of 73. It's not too late. It's never too late. If you're breathing, it's not too late. Okay. People go back to college. People go back to universities at any age of their life. I know it might be a little harder, but I've seen mothers who have children at home and they go at night and weekends to study and educate themselves. So there's no excuses. If you take the same amount of time that you gave JWs for all their meetings, service, preparations, and so on, and transfer the same amount of time into whatever it is that you want to educate yourself in, then believe me, within a year or two, you're going to be an expert in that field. It's the amount of time we gave JWs, enormous. Transfer that time. Don't waste it on TikTok or Netflix or watching constant YouTube videos. Educate yourself in something you want to be valued. And you'll see that with short period of time, you can become a very, very valuable person to others. How can I win financial struggle? Many JWs struggle with finances simply because it was also viewed as something very evil, materialistic, unspiritual. And it doesn't mean that if you will have a good education and a good job, you're not going to struggle financially. I know plenty of people who have a higher education, university education, and they actually work in their profession and they're struggling financially. And their debts are so much higher than their income. It's incredible. The number one rule is spend less than you make. I know it's so simplistic, but you know what? Who does it? Majority of people cannot calculate how much money they're spending because now it's a plastic. You don't see cash in your wallet. You have a piece of plastic and you don't know how much you spend because it's impossible to calculate every expense. So mastering this field of finances is extremely important. What you have to learn is how to make money work for you so you don't constantly work for your money. You put money to work. So at one point, that money starts working for you, and you go to work only if you want to, not because you have to. That's called financial freedom. And there are steps towards it, and it's more scientific than you imagine. It's not art, it's actually science. It's you're making that much money. Let's say you make $50,000 a year, and you have to take a minimum of 10, hopefully 15 to 20% out of that paycheck and invest. And what you do is you start living like a person who makes 40,000. There are plenty of people who make $40,000 a year and they're happy as hell. So you start living like that person, and you take that chunk and you invest and you invest and invest until you create a critical mass. That critical mass, one point, has a tipping point where the interest on that money starts covering all the expenses that you have, and then you are financially free. It is possible to do. It is doable for anyone. I've done it, and many people have done it starting from zero. But you have to educate yourself. Things that I would encourage you to read is obviously the great book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. It's an old classic, but it's a must read to change your mindset towards money. And another one I would recommend is Automatic Millionaire. Also really good book. But there's tons of books out there about this. But those two books will basically, one will change your mind of what money is and how to manipulate money so money works for you. And the other one will basically teach you how to do it so it doesn't feel like struggle. So you create a system that works for you, so you don't have to constantly think, oh, how much money I have at the end of the month, count this. No, you set up a system that works automatically, so you take money automatically out of your account, and that money automatically gets invested, and everything happens so you don't see the money. If you try to manage and balance and this and count and subtract and divide, it will not work. If you systemize it so the whole thing happens automatically, just like taxes are taken automatically out of your account, the same thing you got to do with your investments. Automatic every month, every paycheck, and you can't touch it until it works for you. Learn this, otherwise you will always work for the money and you will always struggle. Next one, what is the meaning of life? Oh my gosh, Jack, you couldn't come up with easier questions? What's the meaning of life? People have been trying to figure it out that for a long time. You know what? JWs gave us the meaning. They always said, oh, you know what? The meaning of your life is to serve God. Whew. Maybe you don't believe in God anymore. Maybe you left that and you're like, oh, what was the meaning of my life now? I feel empty. I'm free. Great. I do whatever I want, but I don't have the same amount of happiness that I had before. I felt like the previous happiness I had, it was a lasting happiness. I feel like my life had a meaning. Now, great. Maybe I'm doing well financially. I'm buying myself things. I'm going on trips. I have my favorite car or a house or whatever. But it doesn't give me that lasting feeling of happiness like I had when I was a JW. Why? I'll tell you why. There's 3 levels of happiness. One level is what we call a rock star happiness, where something happens in your life and you're like, you know what? I'm going to treat myself. I'm going to treat myself to this trip. I'm going to treat myself to this great car. I'm going to treat myself to this great dress, whatever it is. And we actually feel happy. Yes, we feel happy because we achieved something. We treated ourselves. We coveted something and we got it. And at that moment, we're like, wow, that makes us happy. But for how long? A day or 2, an hour, a week, 2 max? And then it just becomes like everything else. There's something called law of familiarity. And if you're around something long enough, you're going to take it for granted. So that kind of happiness does not last. However, we still need it. We still need it once in a while, a little bit extra dopamine in our brain because we bought something for ourselves and it makes us feel good. No problem. But it doesn't last. But the second one is our passion. It's a level of happiness when we love something. We love doing something and we have no problem spending money on it, even Other people might criticize us, but we're like, you know what? I love sailing. I'm gonna build this sailboat and whatever, and we spend an enormous amount of time and money and energy to build something that other people are like, oh, that's kind of crazy. But you absolutely love it. That's your passion. That's something that you want to do, and off you go to the races, and you follow your passion. It makes you feel happy. But there's this third level. And the third level is a little bit more complex because the third level is quite extraordinary. It's the deeper meaning of what your life is all about. It's when somebody says, your life matters more than what you think. It has an impact on others. And when you see that your life has a positive impact on other people, it's this greater meaning. Then there's this energy inside of us that we feel like, you know what, I'm going to do whatever it takes to matter. And that is missing among XJWs because everything they did as a JW had a meaning. They gave you a vacuum cleaner. Oh, no problem. Assembly, go and vacuum the podium. Oh, I'm a king. Everybody's going to see me how I'm vacuuming. Cleaning toilets, no problem. A tree fell down on the Kingdom Hall. I'll go fix it right away. I mean, the tree fell down on our Kingdom Hall and we had to fix the roof. And guess what? My wife, yeah, she goes there, shingles, and she's nailing the shingles and she's trying to fix the roof. And I'm looking at her, I'm like, whoa, if that tree fell on our house, she wouldn't be fixing the roof. She wouldn't. But why is it that her and a whole bunch of other women from the Kingdom Hall were there on the roof, carrying shingles, nailing them, working with tar? I'm like, oh my gosh, you don't see the same women working in this field on the roofs, even in their own homes. Very rarely. Why? Because it had a meaning. Everything had a deeper meaning. And if you attach a deeper meaning, then the task doesn't matter. I've seen women with jackhammers chipping concrete. No problem. Only at the Kingdom Hall. They will never go to that kind of work and try to build, I don't know, homes for somebody else. No, that's not the jobs they want to choose. But if it's for God, if it's for Jehovah, if it's for eternal life, if it's to resolve this sovereignty issue that's been going on for thousands of years, and it will prove, Satan wrong, and we will go into paradise. The meaning was so great. We attach ourselves to that meaning that the task, no matter how tiring, how difficult, it didn't matter. It gave us that satisfaction. As a matter of fact, the harder the task, the more we liked it. That's right. When somebody came from Africa and they told us, oh yeah, there were crocodiles and there were snakes and there were tough conditions, and look at this roads and where we slept, it was so hot, there's no air conditioning. I'm like, come on. The worse the story, the more we liked it. It's crazy, but that's how it was, because we felt like the sacrifice was needed in order to feel worthy. And sometimes that stays even later on when we feel like, it's too easy. We're not sacrificing ourselves. We're not suffering enough. And people not noticing our suffering. People not noticing that it's hard. Because you know what matters in the real world? It's not the sacrifice. It's not our pain. It's not our sweat. None of that matters. Do I really care how long it took somebody to build my phone? No, I don't. Neither do you. What do I care is, how does this device improve the quality of my life? What I can do with it and what I cannot. That's what matters. It's the results that this piece of device brings to my life that matters. I do not go and pay for something based on how many people and how long they worked for it. No, I pay for what I want that device to do for me. And so are you. So you know what matters in life? Results. Results. Not your sweat, not your hours, results. But the problem is, when you went to service, what did you count? Results or hours? You counted your hours. You counted your territories. We did territories and we counted our hours. None of that matters in the real world. In the real world, what matters is what kind of results you're bringing into the table. If you want to get a raise in your job and you go to your employer and you say, I've been working here for so many years and I'm doing so many hours. You know what your employer thinks? He's like, that means you're expensive to me. That's what he thinks when you're saying that. You're thinking, I deserve a raise because I've been here for long enough. It's due to me. Now, what your employer wants to hear is what kind of results are you bringing? When you want a raise, you go to your employer and say, you know what? This is what I have done. And in X amount of hours, we brought this result. But thanks to me, now we can create the same result in half the time. Therefore, you're winning. I deserve a raise because I'm bringing you more value. I'm bringing you better results. I can do things in half the time as a new person. So if you're paying that person, $20 an hour and you're paying me $40 an hour, and we're doing the same thing in the same time, he's going to choose the guy for $20 an hour. But if you're creating value of $100 and you're only getting paid 40, then your employer says, I'll give you a raise, no problem. Because what truly matters is what kind of impact we make on others. And that's where we're going to start feeling that our life matters, that we make our life meaningful when we create results. But we were just constantly told, sacrifice, 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 and your sacrifice will be rewarded sometimes in paradise. Maybe if you make it through. You create your meaning of life. And your meaning of life can be for 10 years this, and 10 years later will change. Why? Because you choose to. Nobody was born with a meaning of life. You choose what you want to do and how you want to impact this world and who you want to help and what kind of impact you're going to have on others. That's up to you. And you get to choose it. But believe me, if you just focus on yourself and your own pleasure and your own passions, very quickly you're going to start feeling empty. Choose something that makes an impact, that improves the quality of life for others, for yourself and others. And then and only then you're going to start feeling as your life has a meaning. What convinces JWs to leave the organization? Different things, but let's talk about few. If you want to help JW to open their eyes and see certain things, you have to first find out why they're in it. And JWs are there for basically three reasons. One, the chances are they're indoctrinated. They were raised in it, and somebody else told them what is right, what is wrong, and why this religion is the truth. But you can ask them first, what convinces them that they have done a good job? Now, why is that important? Because when they answer that question, you will know how their brain works. It's something called convincing meta program in their brain. What that is, it just tells you how we get convinced that something is true. So if somebody says, well, I know because many people told me that I have done a good job, that means that person has external frame of reference and he needs to hear it from many people that he's doing something right or that he's doing something wrong in order to know if he did a good job. If they said, you know what, because I gave my best, I just know inside that I gave my best, and even though people were criticizing it, that was the best that I could do, so I know I've done a good job. I couldn't do any better because that's the best level of skill that I have. That means that person has internal frame of reference, and what they think of this matters more than what other people think. If somebody said, oh, because my boss or my teacher or my father said that, yeah, I have done a good job, chances are these people look into authority figures to tell them whether they're doing right or wrong. And by knowing this, then you can start a conversation, right? So knowing what convinces them and how they process this in their head will help you to understand why. So if somebody left the organization, but their frame of reference was authority, so whatever the governing body said was true. Whatever the governing body said, they were the smart ones. That was in my head. Like I viewed the governing body as the authority in my head. So when I heard about Raymond France, I'm like, he was the governing body member. He was the authority, and he knows something I don't. He knows something that I never knew. So he was this authority in my head because he was at the highest position of Jehovah's Witnesses. So when I read his book, I'm like, whoa, that really opened up my eyes. For another person, it could be something totally different. For somebody else, could be, oh, they need to hear it from many. And when they feel good in the congregation, but the congregation starts gossiping around them, when they start being hurt by many people, then they're like, you know what? I don't care about the doctrines. They're actually right or wrong. I don't care. I just don't see love in the congregation. I don't feel it. And they walk away from the congregation simply because they got hurt from another person. Or it's a eternal feeling. They simply read something, maybe a change of a doctrine and something, and inside they're like, that just doesn't sound right with me. It just, inside I feel it's wrong. I don't know what it is yet, but it's inside I process that it is not correct to go that route. And if you know their frame of reference, it is easier to have the conversation. But most people leave because of being mistreated in the congregation, or because the doctrines that they have learned, they clicked, oh, something is wrong here. How can I free myself from JWs? To be honest, the freedom doesn't come from a piece of paper that says I no longer want to be a JW. That is not a ticket to freedom. It's a good step for some, and I don't recommend it, to be honest, because you never signed any paper when you were joining Jehovah's Witnesses. Why would you sign anything to leave? The reason why they came up with this idea of writing a letter saying I no longer want to be a JW is because they want to hurt you. Yes, the letter is designed to hurt you and to protect the congregation. It's not there to help you. Okay, it's there to hurt you. They want you to be cut off so you don't have any access to people in the congregation. And if you write that letter, you will be announced to everybody never to talk to this person again. They all know. What that means is you will no longer have influence and access to anybody in the congregation. So it will automatically limit your amount of influence that you could have on the people in the congregation. When are you free? You're free when you don't care about the decisions that Jehovah's Witnesses are making. You don't care about any announcements. You don't care about the new light. You don't care about the new broadcasting. Whatever it is that they do, it's their problem. It's not yours. You're free when not even one decision in your life is made with the perspective of what will Jehovah's Witnesses think about this. You might think, I don't think about, I just want to tell them how it is. Well, that's also a decision, because some people laughed and they're angry and they're doing something to prove to Jehovah's Witnesses that, they're gonna have this great life, or they're gonna have this tattoo, on their shoulder that says JW no more, or whatever it is, right? They're doing certain things to stand against witnesses, right? Now, I'm not against these people. Obviously, there is a level of awareness that needs to be brought up, and I'm very grateful to so-called apostates because I've learned a lot from them. But the question is not whether it's right or wrong, but when are you free? And you're free when you're oblivious to it, when you don't care, the apathy towards it, when no matter what Jehovah's Witnesses are doing, you're like, I don't care. It does not affect your life. It does not affect your decisions no more. You're free from them because they no longer have any influence on your choices, on your decisions. Okay, those are the questions that I had in my head. Let me take a look at some of your comments. Thank you for joining. If somebody wants to join me, you don't have to show your face. You can be just on the broadcast. You can call me, or you can click on the link that I showed before in the comments, and you can join me. Here is Adam. Adam, great comment. Jehovah's Witnesses are the most beautiful organization in the world. Adam, obviously you are a Jehovah's Witness. If you're watching me, you're already breaking some of the rules. And I applaud you for having the courage to watch me, because a lot of witnesses would not even dare to watch me. But Adam, you know very well what happens if you leave. If you left the organization, how you would be treated, but all the people that you consider loving and caring, you know what's going to happen to you. Not one person will remain as your friend. Even though you never hurt them, even though you don't do anything bad towards them, they will cut you off simply because you questioned. So ask yourself that question. Is that a loving thing to do? Oh, see, Adam says Jehovah's Witnesses will be on this earth for eternity to come. Adam, think about it for a second. Let's say there's somebody in your congregation, or maybe you yourself are one of the 144,000. Let's just say the scenario. Let's say you're married to a woman who is not a witness. Maybe you became a witness, but she never became a witness. And you have kids, and the kids followed the mother. So now you have two kids who are not witnesses, and you are a witness, and your wife is not a witness. And somebody in your congregation is anointed, one of the 144,000. Now, based on the Jehovah's Witness doctrine, that person will go to heaven right before Armageddon, hop on a white horse, and kill everybody who is not a witness, including your wife and your children. That is the doctrine. That is the current teaching. So you get to live forever in the paradise on earth, very well knowing that the brother Johnson from your congregation slaughtered your wife and kids. So you can have a nice house with a view of a mountain and a panda in the backyard. This is what Jehovah's Witnesses are teaching. And you're telling me this is the best religion ever. And yet, I know you have to agree with me, because that is still written in your books. So ask yourself, is this the most loving? Okay, if you guys have any questions, or you're thinking of a question that you had when you were leaving, please post it. I'll be more than happy to address it. Post it in the comments. I'm surprised, Adam. Somebody said Adam just crushed alt worldly channel too. Well, I don't mind witnesses watching me. I actually applaud them, because it takes courage for witnesses to watch my channel or any so-called apostate material. I invite them, by all means, please join me. Please, if I'm wrong, if I'm lying, if I'm mistaken, expose me. Please, publicly humiliate me. But we all know that will never happen. I extended this invitation countless times to so many witnesses who have criticized me very strongly. Not one had the courage to show their face and expose my lies. Why? Because they're fearful. They're scared. They're indoctrinated into believing that we're part of the system, Satan system of things. They just so delusional. It's unbelievable. And I don't blame them, because I was there too for many years, and I believed it, and I was defending it, and I was making fun of the people who left, and I viewed apostates as very dangerous people. So I get it. I know how they think. Most of us understand it, because we were like that too. I saw what my best friend was doing, and I told him, hey, you have to go report yourself to the elders, because I can't take, your sins are now in my head, and I can't sleep, and Armageddon is going to come, and Jesus is going to cut my head off because I've been covering your sin. You got to go report yourself. He went, he got this fellowship. Then I was shunning him. I didn't talk to him for a year. We were working together. I was treating him like he doesn't exist, even though we were just two of us on the job site. It was crazy. The indoctrination was super, super strong. So I get it. I get how they think because I was there too, and I never forgot. Okay, thanks, guys. If you don't have any more questions, you don't want to join, you don't want to call me, I get it. No problem. I will see you on the next one then. Take care.